Welcome back to ChamberTV, a community-produced program this fall exploring how business in our community is contributing to improving prosperity and the quality of life in our region. My name is David Prang, and I serve our community as the Chief Executive Officer and Secretary to the Board of Directors of the Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant. The Chamber acknowledges that a diverse, equitable, and safe community is essential for the economic prosperity and improved quality of life for everyone in our region. We acknowledge that the land that we live and work on is located on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples, and we offer our respect for the long-standing relationships with our local Indigenous communities, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the Six Nations of the Grand River. The Chamber has been active in our community since 1866, when industry leaders united to focus on transportation issues in our community at that time, mainly around the Grand River. Today, improving transportation around our region remains the signature advocacy issue of the Chamber, along with countless other opportunities to improve our community. ChamberTV meets with individuals, business leaders, politicians, and community developers to explore how they are meeting the challenges of today's business environment and what they are focused on to improve the quality of life in our region. Recently, the Chamber hosted a series of municipal election debates for the City of Brantford, and this week I am pleased to host Andy Woodburn, a veteran member of the Chamber's Advocacy Committee, a small business owner in Brantford, and a former City Councillor in the City of Brantford in the 70s, 80s, and 90s for a total of 19 years. Andy and I will review the municipal election race within the City of Brantford, covering the mayor's race in each of the 5 ward races, and if we have time, his opinion about the County of Brant's municipal election as well. Welcome, Andy.
My pleasure to be here, Dave.
So we had, you've got the benefit of recording today's show on September the 20th, which is without actually seeing any of the debates. So we got to talking last week or so as we were getting ready for the debates about what the priorities are, what the different options are for each of the wards, each of the ward candidates. And I thought, well, this would be a great conversation to actually have on camera and tell I guess share your experience and wisdom and insight, and maybe even place a bet or two on what the outcomes might be. So what do you see as sort of the 2 or 3 key priorities for the city going into this municipal election?
Good governance, as always. But before we start, I just want to say that because of the date that it is today, we've just suffered the loss of Queen Elizabeth, and she was beloved in this city. And we've had a book signed for her. And I think we wish the best for the new king, King Charles. And hopefully when he does his tour, he might be able to visit Brantford. We hope so.
We talked about that last week, about
okay.
a little something to work
today,
on. Today,
as you look, it varies by ward, but probably the only really negative thing going on right now is, of course, Arundel. And the staff at City Hall, I'm sure, are sick of it. It's been going on for 3.5 years. They have tried to close the deal, so to speak, and I think right now they've announced it's finally done. I think it's the 3rd, 4th, or 5th final done. So we'll see if it actually is settled or whether the new council coming in has to deal with it. Probably half the council getting elected will be opposed to the way it was handled. And I think in terms of Kevin Davis's performance, I think that's the only one that I'd say half the population thinks was really poorly handled. Well, maybe more than half think it was poorly handled, but half think it was on the wrong side. It's affected every golfer in the city because they shut down a golf course. So that means all the golfers who are there have to try and find someplace else. And it's been pretty nasty right now. And the fact that it's lasted 3.5 years should tell everybody who helped shut down that golf course, perhaps that wasn't the wisest thing to do.
Interesting. Well, I know we had a conversation, a very brief conversation around the Chamber board table back when this became an immediate issue, and the board decided not to move forward on a position at that point in time, and that's where the sort of chamber perspective on it. Certainly, municipal golf is a very interesting animal, both in the city of Brantford and other surrounding municipalities. And it did come up in the debates. As participant, or as rather the facilitator and the producer of the debates, got to sit in on all 6 of them, and Airedale did come up, but so did other municipal assets as well, including the airport, the Wayne Gretzky Center, the tourism center, for example. So the sale and operation and use of core municipal city assets are definitely a key piece. Oak Park Road as well. So the city has physical facilities, recreational facilities, and then that core infrastructure piece as well. So the chamber was really focused on, in our questions that we were developed through the advocacy committee, on issues around transportation as a big one. What do you see as sort of the key priorities for this council, this incoming council, as far as transportation?
Right now, we want to hook up with Hamilton if we can. We want to make sure we get easier transportation to Hamilton and to Toronto. And the mayor and the council have worked very hard on that, and they're continuing to negotiate to see what they can get into Brantford. We're kind of hamstrung in there because in politics, real politics, there are 2 things that are a priority. One is ego, and the other is money. Now, a lot of what we do depends entirely on how much subsidy you're going to get from the federal or provincial governments. And that's just the way it is. If we can do a project that's $1 million and we can get $600,000 of subsidy from either level of government, whereas if we do a different one, we can only get $200,000 of subsidy, we'll go with the 600. That's not rocket science, that's not smart, it's not the way it's supposed to be, but it is the way it is. Yeah. We always have to be looking for money. And the basic struggle between municipalities and the provincial government is always this. The municipalities want more money and less control. Provincial government wants to give less money and have more control. And that never changes. Yeah. And the new members coming in, and half the council is going to be new. Yeah. They have to adjust to that. So I hope the briefing sessions that are set up for them are good.
So based on your 19 years on council, the perspective, and we'll get into predictions and prognostications shortly, but this new council coming in, what are their biggest challenges going to be getting up and running after October the 24th?
They've got to adjust to each other. They've got to learn how it works. Most people think the staff report to the mayor, and then the mayor does whatever. But really, I've been on councils where the mayor's been overturned by the council because they didn't agree what he was doing. So Kevin has to keep his hand in with the existing council. They're trying desperately to clear off Airedale. Everybody, I think everybody, is tired about it, but it was a bad decision. I think probably the ultimate decision on that will be just to blame everything on Van der Stel. He's gone. He can't defend himself. He's not running again. We can sort of laugh about it, but that's probably what's going to happen. And probably it'll kill any chance he had to become mayor in the future. It really will. It's the bitterness from that is just, for me, it's bad. I was the alderman from that area for almost 20 years. Parts of 21 years, actually. But I usually round it to 20 or, to be specific, 19. Yeah. But you've taken away that, and how many other 50 acres of land are there within the city? So that's what they have to look at, because inevitably somebody is going to say, well, let's build another Airedale if this thing is finally done in the next month or 2.
Well, there's I actually served on the golf management board for a time, so quite familiar with other past members of the golf management board when that entity existed, as well as the dollar figures and the operational opportunities and costs. And I worked at Northridge actually as a child as well, or child as a young man. So quite familiar with the golf operations of the city, and an avid golfer, and familiar that it's tough to get on a golf course really anywhere in Ontario right now coming out of COVID. But then the demographics for golf change a little bit as well moving forward. So we'll move on from Airedale, whereas many in the city are still focused on that as an opportunity, or as an opportunity as a challenge, as an issue. I think from the Chamber's perspective, we're looking at what are the new opportunities going forward. So we've got, certainly there's a lot of talk, and there is currently a lot of talk about the homelessness, addictions, mental health issues. Are there any particular candidates that stand out that have a solution or have a process or a path forward on how to address those issues, both in the downtown perhaps as well as other parts of the community?
Well, everybody talks about it, but the central problem is ladies don't feel safe going downtown. That's the basic problem. The council has tried to alleviate that by putting 8 special constables there. That really wasn't what the public wanted. What they wanted was 8 real constables down there, that if someone's just lying on the sidewalk, say, in front of a coffee shop, they can just pick them up by the scruff of the neck and move them on.
Which is not really, it's not solving the problem.
It's not solving the problem.
It's addressing what's immediate, the issue in front of you, but not solving the overall issue. And I think we'd mentioned in our questions and doing some work on it. We've done some significant work on that provincially, and look forward to this fall doing some work with our counterparts in Greater Moncton and Lethbridge nationally, and pushing the Canadian government forward on support for provinces to deal with this, because it's a real issue in Brantford, but Oshawa, Thunder Bay, Barrie, Orillia, Moncton, Halifax, Greater Lethbridge, Edmonton, Calgary, downtown east side in Vancouver. This is not a unique to Brantford issue. It's just that it's because of the small area, geographic area of the downtown. It's certainly concentrated, and absolutely does present some issues for business owners for sure.
Well, I think the public will give the council, current one and the incoming one, some leeway when they see 8 special constables down. That it will be a big improvement. But there are a number of candidates who favor having a sub-police station, a real sub-police station, either downtown or perhaps in Ward 1 or 5. So when they get on council, the first thing they have to do, all the new members, is get the budget. Look at the budget, see what's been approved, what they can do. The staff can't do anything unless it's approved in the budget, and that is the council's ultimate power. So they have to set the goals and have the staff execute it. They've got very highly professional staff there. So the hardest thing is to get the councils to run together. Some mayors have tended to just get 5 other members of council and work with them and forget the other 5. So then there's a tremendous amount of friction over that. With this election, there are only 4 people running for mayor. So it's fairly easy to predict who'll win.
Well, so good timing, because we're about halfway through the show right now. So we've got about 15 minutes left. So let's get into some of those predictions, which is what, which is why we thought it might be good to have this discussion on air. So let's go in reverse order.
Okay.
So Ward 5, 8 candidates at the drop of the election there in August. Your thoughts on Ward 5? What are the priorities, and how do the candidates
usually you can pick the top 3. Yeah. I would have thought Heather McDonald would have been one of the top 3 because she's been Volunteer of the Year. But she, I understand, has dropped out. So it makes it easier for the one incumbent, who's the Labour incumbent, and he has strong Labour support. Some of the Labour people may think that he's just not vigorous enough for Labour, not radical enough, not loud enough. But he's found that slot where he can be effective, even though he works nights sometimes. I would encourage viewers to check out the Ward 5 debates, because he hits those in spades during the debate process. Well, he's found that works for him.
Yeah.
He's effective. He works hard. He's very sincere. Most people realize that. And so I don't see him losing any support. And with so many other candidates, you can pretty well say, I think he'll make it. And that is my personal opinion.
So filling that second spot, what are those? What do those candidates have to do to really stand out?
There is a desire to have some women on council. This is one ward that has had women in the past, very capable women. You've got two guys who've got signs up already. And I want to just say this at this point in time. Most people don't care about the election. They really don't. To them, it's just more of an annoyance. They've been concerned about the Queen. Some have been watching what's happened there for the past week. But as far as local politics, it'll pick up really sharply in the final 2 weeks. Now, there are very few signs around. The only one who's got signs aplenty in every ward is Kevin.
Kevin Davis.
Kevin Davis.
Incumbent mayoral candidate.
Mayoral candidate. His one main opponent has some up, I think, in each of the wards, but not a
Mr. Robel.
Mr. Robel. Mr. Turmel is the one constant in Brantford politics. He's now got over 100 consecutive elections that he's lost. And he just has fun. He talks about funny money. He's not serious. I shouldn't say that. He may seriously believe that funny money will work. But I understand, in his own way, he's quite brilliant as a poker player. So he makes a good living, has fun when he's doing this, but he's not serious to most of the people in the town. Mm-hmm. The other gentleman who's running is
Mr. Smith.
He's largely unknown. The people who do know him think very highly of him, but he has no real political background. So it comes down to Kevin Davis or Mr. Robel.
Or Dave Robel, yeah.
That's the choice. And given that, and given the number, I would go on the record as saying at this point in time, I think Kevin will win.
Okay.
Substantially.
Well, one of the rules
might not please Mr. Robel. He might end up suing.
I think Mr. Chabelle is the gambler. From the Chamber's perspective,
yes.
We work with prospective politicians and the elected politicians of all stripes, and we'll be pleased to work with the successful candidates of the mayoral as well as the various wards in the county as well.
Getting back
so we've
to
got
five.
Your prediction on the mayoral. Back to five.
Back to five. There is a picture here, and they have 6 candidates. They all look to be pretty competent, and probably any one of them could do a reasonable job working with the current incumbent. But looking over their credentials, there's one here I think probably has more to do with the city. And that I'm going to go out most likely at this point in time, because remember, we're talking a month before the election. I'd say Mandy Samwell's probably looking to be the leader for the second slot. Now, that doesn't mean she's got it locked up, but I would say she'd be the leader. And
what does campaigning look like, both for Mr. Davis, Mr. Robel, as well as the various the ward candidates? Is it a different type of campaign when you're the incumbent versus the challenger, and is it a different campaign?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So what happens between what does the underdog or what does the new person coming in challenging the incumbent? What do they need to do between now and election day to really stand out?
They have to find an issue that the incumbent is on the wrong side of, or they just basically say the incumbent's going to win, so forget it. Like, I can work well with the incumbent, and my issues are bang, 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 bang.
So this would be in a ward situation where there's a 2-person race.
Yes.
You've got the Ward 5
The
councillors.
second slot is open, and it's up for anybody to grab. I think Mandy's in the lead right now, but there are 2 gentlemen who are very competent and could do a good job, as could the other lady who's in there. But any one of the other 4 could be a surprise. It's not locked in. I think it's locked in with the incumbent. I think he'll win.
Yeah.
Simply because he's competent, he works hard, He's not abrasive. Maybe some of the radical Labour guys would like him to be, but he's not. But he fits into the Brantford style.
Okay,
So
well, let's move on
fine.
to, we've got, yeah,
4.
4, yeah, let's go to 4.
Well, I made the comment one time, if Richard died 6 weeks before the election, there might be somebody else elected. But if he died within the month before, he'd still get elected.
Councillor Carpenter, he's hardworking.
He's
consistent.
hardworking, very intense. He's knowledgeable, knows all the issues, works like heck. He will come in 3,500 anyway, regardless of what the circumstances are. He'll come in that range, and he's earned it over 30 years. People trust him. And there was some talk about whether he would run for mayor, but he chose not to. But I would think 4 years from now, he would be a formidable campaigner.
Yeah.
As far as the other candidates go, now, what I did was I got all the Brantford Expositor, which give them a plug.
Covered, yeah.
And they have a picture. He's got a crowded field. Now the
largest field. There's 9.
The raw.
We only have about 7 minutes left.
Okay,
So we don't
do
want
it
to spend
really
a lot of
quick.
time. Yeah.
The raw numbers are this. In that ward, you've got about 8,000, 7,000 and a half, 8,000 votes in total will be cast. Yeah. Okay, Richard, figure on him for 3,500. So that leaves 4,000 votes split among what, 8 other candidates? You just sort of look at that and think nobody else will probably get even 2,000. But if there is one that would be, I would pick the lady in the front here, and I'm going to pay, want to make
Hunt?
sure, Linda Hunt.
Yeah.
She was front and center.
Okay.
My gut feeling is she'll probably take it, but given the way the votes split, there could be others. There's a prominent businessman there. Mike Goldman has attended every city council meeting for the last 20 years, but he can't seem to break out of that 500 vote cycle, although he deserves better than that. Yeah. Richard Wright is extremely competent, would make a really good member of city council, but he's coming late and he's not that well known. So my guess, Richard and
Okay.
Mrs.
And it's
Hunt.
to run through the others there for 4, Mr. Beamer, Dale Beamer, Ray Petro,
Yeah.
Chris Gutierrez,
Yeah.
Janet Paul, Richard Wright, Mike Goldman, and Rob Ferguson.
Okay.
So with 5
two-
minutes left, we've
okay.
got 3 wards to cover.
Gonna
Wards
do it
3,
real
2, and
fast.
1. Let's go in that order. So Ward 3, we've got incumbent both Councillor Greg Martin or Mr. Martin and Mr. McCreary running.
They have a lot of competent people running.
Yep.
The problem is the number of votes available. The 2 incumbents work hard. They're popular with their base. They service the ward well. They're very conservative in the conservative area. So give each of them 3,000. There's only another 3,000 split among 4 candidates.
Yeah.
So that is their problem. So even though those people, and you can mention their names, are very competent, all 4 of them, they run up against
It's
the
a matter
numbers
of
game.
knocking on doors and FaceTime and handshakes for
no matter
Kim
what
Harrison,
they do,
Kaylee Pawson, and Mark San Angelo.
I would say, well, between those 2, they'd be the runners-up, but I would pick Kelly to finish 3rd. And that's important because although this time the council deviated, normally when a council member retires or dies, they appoint the runner-up. Probably they'll go back to that given the hassle they had.
Okay.
So it's
So
important.
we've got
there.
2 and 1 to go.
In 2,
3 minutes. 2, we've got a unique situation with Councillor Utley retiring, so it's
an open slot.
One's open.
So
Councillor Sless is running, so we can put
Sless-
him in the same
Yes.
stature as Mr. Carpenter
yes,
in the
he's
same area.
got 30 years experience there, so give him that.
Yeah.
But then this is one of those ones that's really difficult to call. Littell served on council. he was extremely effective. He demolished 48 buildings, changed the face of downtown. But then when he ran in Ward 5 for City Council, he had a bit of bad luck. He had another Rotarian running. There was a very, very wide field, and he didn't win. But he was third. So now he's trying Ward 2, and he would have to be considered one of the top 2 or 3 to replace it. Now, Mr.
Mr.
Capoli?
Caputo, Mr.
Caputo.
Scheer, Ms. James, and Mr. Vandering.
Okay. Mr. Caputo is being pushed by the outgoing councillor, John Utley. He's very competent. He would do a great job on council. Mr. Scheer, very effective, got a great core group, very concerned with the Airedale issue. He likewise will put on a great campaign. And, the lady who is running has a lot of female support because they want to see more ladies on council, and she ran before, so she has some name recognition. So this one's really tough to call because you've got 5 people.
I'm going to hold you to it because we got to get to 1.
Okay, so if we're going to 1, 1 is the one that's the strangest of all. You've got an incumbent who was appointed by council, so she has the advantage of having helped people.
Ms. Sicoli.
You've got Ms. Sicoli. You've got the runner-up from before, Sullivan.
Michael Sullivan.
Who finished third, who in normal circumstances would have been appointed to council, but council chose not to. You've got Mike Tutt, who I worked with 20 years ago to bring the casino here, and he bears a lot of credit for that $95 million that the city's got.
Changing the city of Brantford, yeah.
Yeah. And John
Van Dyke.
has been very active with some of the major groups in this town. He was a small businessman, so he understands that. Plus, he's sort of handicapped, so he'll get that handicap support. So it could be any combination of those 4.
So Ward 1 is the one to watch, as well as, I
Yes.
guess, the mayoral one and a few others here. Some words to think about. Encourage viewers to take a look at each of the Rogers TV Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant debates. Check out the coverage in the Brantford Expositor, also our media partners in covering this event. We have reached the end of the time today with Andy Woodburn, so thank you, Andy, for joining us and your insights. Always a pleasure to have you back.
One thing I would say is for everybody, get out and vote. It's really important because on average, only 30% bother to vote.
Yeah.
And of that number that vote, 30% cast a single ballot for council.
So get those votes out. They make it happen.
Yeah.
Again, the televised debates will be airing on Rogers TV Brantford and the Rogers TV and Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant YouTube channels leading up to the October 24th election. The City of Brantford, the Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant is pleased to support our friends at the Patterson District Chamber of Commerce through their municipal election candidates event on Wednesday, October the 5th. Check out their website for more details. I'm David Prang with the Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant. Look forward to seeing you out in our community. Thank you.